All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Who Knew in the Moment, the podcast. Today, I am very honored to have Anthonytrucks. Anthony has a fascinating story, and you're here today. It's one from foster home to NFL, from feeling down and out to now mindset coach. And, something that I've really grown to respect about Anthony is one, his desire to be a phenomenal father, but two, also his enjoyment in helping others. And a phrase that I've heard him use a couple of times that really stuck out to me is success only happens when you, at your core, align with what your vision is. And I thought that that speaks greatly into where he's at in the trajectory he's on. So, Anthony, thanks so much for being on today.
Hey man, no problem. Thank you for thinking of me and having me. I get to share some time with you here and hopefully share some nuggets with your audience.
Absolutely. So, to kick off your story, at 3 years old, you get entered into the foster care system. And
Yeah.
from about 3 to 6, you kind of bounce around. And then finally at 6, find a residence that has some stick to itiveness with it. But talk a little bit about just being
Yeah.
in the foster care system at 3 and just some of the hardships going through that.
Man, it sucks. It sucks in the foster care system. It just is. I don't know if it's designed this way or what goes on, but unfortunately, there's a lot of dynamics that you deal with as a kid, and it shows up later in life. In fact, if you go to any prison in America, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids. Like they have experienced some sort of setback that usually happens at a young age during developmental years that makes it difficult for them to actually, I guess, fully become that confident adult they need to be. So for me, like I was put in that system. I was one of those kids, man. And so at a young age, I was, not shown love or care. My own mom didn't want me or my siblings. The foster families I was in, like I was, beaten and starved and put in shopping carts and pushed down hills and made to lick the bottom of the kids, like neighbor kids' shoes and forced to chase chickens to earn meals. It's really weird stuff, like in hindsight, and I can see it like a movie in my head. But this is what people do, and they did. And I think for me, I got to a point where like I was just checked out, man. I was a bad little kid. I was unhappy for obvious reasons.
Yeah,
And I entered into, this house that's my family now. The unique dynamic as a black man, the only, black kid in an all white family, very poor growing up. And, just weird dynamics, weird diversity, identity issues too. Like, who am I within this? And that was kind of like the upbringing, man. It was a lot, a lot at a young age.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, your points are phenomenal, and it's going to be amazing to hear kind of the mindset shift that you end up having. But at 14, a pretty cool thing happens, and you're able to get adopted by the family. But that
Yeah,
also means you get the chance to play football for the first time.
I do. Yeah, I get to go and do this thing where I got to hit people and not get in trouble, man. That was pretty good. It was a good outlet.
Yeah.
It really was. It was a good outlet. But you know what? It's odd. I never had this like people probably I think assume, oh, you had so much anger, you get to let it out in the field. And I can't attach that emotion. I mean, maybe I did and I've forgotten it, but for the most part, man, I just wanted to feel good by giving my energy to something that was like I could get a return of confidence. Like that was
Mm,
I wanted to make a name for myself in some way, and football was a way to do it. Now the funny thing is, I was very bad at the very beginning. I was horrible at the game. I had no idea. I mean, I'm 14. My
yeah,
teammates,
right.
they've been playing for 5, 6, 7 years. They got years on me, So I'm like, dude, there's no way this is gonna pan out the way I wanted to. And yeah, so I got to do this thing that gave me a sense of self-worth. That was the one thing. Although I was bad at it, I could be free. I got to make decisions. I had a sense of mattering in some capacity. I remember my very first catch, Deer Valley High School, the backfields. I was a receiver, left side. I was running straight, threw the ball, and somehow it just landed in my hands. It just landed. I don't remember catching it. I just remember I had it and I looked at it like, what do I do? I think I stopped running, man. I had a video years ago, I think, and then a guy tackled me and and I remember looking to the sideline, and James was the first time, or James Phil, sorry. I ended up looking to the sideline and all of a sudden, like the crowd is cheering.
Yeah.
I'd never in my life had the outside world give me praise the way that I had got it from that. And so I honestly got this addiction to like, I want more of that. I want more of that outside love. And I don't think it's healthy to have that be the only thing that drives you. But for a moment in time, for a little bit, it did. It drove me wanting to get that same appreciation from the world because I'd never had it before.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And I love how you remember that specific moment of the first catch.
I do. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, my dad had on video. I remember running. I remember being on the field. I also remember like the video of it. Like it was all shaky when it got. Yeah, but I have a weird memory. But it's odd. I can tell you the layout of my house at 3. I was told that because of the trauma early on, my brain kicked on early, and so it's just been locking
Interesting.
up stuff. So far the memory is pretty solid. I may forget like movie actors' names and little stuff like that, but I have a steel trap for the most part.
I love it. So in high school, one another thing that happens about a year later is you hear a girl in, I believe it's an English class, talking about an excuse as to for why she's in the position she is, and something about that conversation caught your ear.
Yeah. It was Mr. Howell's English class, in fact, and it wasn't anything. I wasn't part of the conversation. To be quite honest, I was checked out. I was sleeping pretty much and just hanging out.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the two girls were talking, and I tell it in a sense of like it was a cool gift, because I don't think we're all given these gifts. And the gift that she gave me was a statement, and the statement is the reason I'm so bad is because I'm in foster care. Now
Mm,
she's not talking to me, talking to somebody else, but I got to hear my excuse for checking out loud.
yeah.
See, by
Yeah.
this time, I'd had 2 years of football. I was horrible. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. My mom had been diagnosed with MS. My brother went to the military. I'm one of 6. I'm like the old guy, and I'm just sitting there hanging out trying to figure out my life. And dude, like I checked out, and that was the reason why. I'm like, I'm a foster kid. I'm not supposed to have anything great in life. Is what am I? So she said, and I was like, ooh, yeah, that doesn't sound good, man. Like if that's what I have to live off of for the rest of my life and say the reason I'm a bad dad or bad husband is because of this thing that happened to me years before I had a moment in time to actually have control. I'm like, that's yeah, that can't be it. And it shook me just enough to make me start thinking about adjusting. And I say it's a gift because I don't think everybody gets this gift. I don't believe we're all given the opportunity to hear our stupid excuse out loud. The one that's like, well, the reason I can't launch a business is because I've never run a business before. Well, of course you haven't run a. What are you talking about? What you know what I mean? Of course,
Yeah.
that's a dumb excuse, but that's a real excuse for people. And
Yeah.
so I've always looked at a different area of life of just looking at like what is going on. How can I look at my life in terms of seeing this thing and actually hopefully stating my excuse out loud and be like, oh, it's a dumb one, and then move differently.
So two things I want to highlight there. One is though, she said it, but you took it, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
internalized that and you actually were willing to, all right, let's break this down. What does that mean to me? Because I think sometimes we hear things that we're like, yeah, that's probably true, but we just want to discredit it so we can continue to have our excuse or our reason, right?
Yep. Hmm.
And then the second thing I think you highlighted, which is phenomenal advice, is your mind. If you don't say something out loud, you can let that thing run wild and it will create a lot of things that are not true, but you'll allow yourself to believe it. But when you say it out loud, it just sounds different.
Yeah, it does. And then to be honest, our brains. So there's a study by the American Science Foundation. It actually goes in and looks at like the brain, how it makes ideas and thoughts. And there's like what some between 12 and 60,000 thoughts a day.
Yeah.
Of those, 80% of those are negative and 95% are repetitive. So we, for the most part, have a consistent open loop of negativity, and we don't even realize we're in it. Like there's a statement I love. It's hard to see the label when you're inside the jar.
Uh-huh.
So you're just in there spinning and you have no idea. And then sure enough, your life is this weird, like crazy, tornado. And so like, yeah, if you can stop and speak things out loud, it sometimes gives you an opportunity to actually hear and see and actually see the label. It's like for a moment you get to like, oh wait, what does that say? Wow. Okay, no, I don't want to be that guy. And then you can make adjustments from there.
I love that. That's phenomenal. That's good. So as you progress through high school, you say, hey, my first 2 years are just not great years of football, but something starts changing and you start getting better at football.
I get dope, bro. I didn't get better. What you talking about? I got dope. No. No, you know what it was? Is I did this work in the off season. I did honestly I did what I teach people to do now. So I have something called the shift method, and the shift method is honestly extracted from years of my life. This was the first moment it showed up though. And so I'm like what 15 years old, and I'm a freshman in high school, and this to get to this moment, and she says that thing, and I'm like, yeah, no, I want to be great at something, man. And what I figured out was I got to do things to be great before I know that I'll be great.
Mm,
It's what so few people ever grasp. Like
yeah.
you don't know you're going to be great, but you got to give great effort. But you have to give the effort of what it takes to be great to get great, but you're not going to know until you're great. You know what I mean? Like it's a
Yeah.
weird and so the thing is crazy. Two things are true. One, if you do nothing, you guarantee that you probably don't get much. And the other part that's true is if you do something, you might not get much still. But the
Yeah.
thing is, if I do something, I got a better chance.
Mm.
So I figured, let me go and do what it takes to get a better chance. So I started working my tail off, and I figured, what do great athletes do? And they
Yeah.
lift weights and they run routes. They do the right. So I'm like, let me do those things. Now, in doing them, I got made fun of. My teammates, oh, you skinny trucks. Why you lifting weights? You can't catch a football. Why you doing the routes out there? Bro, you don't know. You're horrible at football. You kept getting it because that's who they saw me to be. That's who they thought I was. But I just kept doing my thing, man. And
Yeah.
little by little, day by day, I kept building this stronger, faster athlete. And the next year, I came back after having an entire offseason of like I had to catch a football 500 times a day. I lifted weights. I ran routes. There's no way that I was missing a day. And I showed up. Phil, I was a different dude, man. And I was, here's the thing that people got to grasp. I was a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, but I was still a skinny little kid. Like I could inhale my stomach and put my hand under my ribs. Like I was a skinny little guy,
Yeah.
but I was an animal. There's a different sense of self in me. And
Yeah.
essentially, the work I'd done in the dark, when I came to the light, you weren't about to rob me of what I deserved. If that football's in the air, if it was thrown to somebody else, it was still my ball. If it's in the
Yeah.
air for me, don't you dare think you're getting it. If I have the football, what makes you think you earn the right to tackle me? I did the work, bro. I'm letting you tackle me right now. I'm stiff arm your face to the ground. Like I'm the guy. And if we're in a football drill and you win, go back to work. Trucks, get back in the line. No, we're doing this again. There's no way he gets to beat me. He didn't earn it, right? There's a different sense of self. And what I
Yeah.
tell people is no matter what you do in life, that's the exact kind of thing. And I tell people what you create creates you.
Mm.
That process of me creating a stronger guy, the repetitions created the guy inside. The
Yeah.
mentality of when I get in this field, I will not settle for less than what I deserve. I deserve to win because I did the work. Now,
Yeah.
here's the problem with people in life. We all live by the same code. However, if you don't do the work in the dark, you think you deserve very little. So
Yeah.
you fight to stay at very little. So if you're given an opportunity, you'll fight to stay in the box by making excuses, staying small, tucking away. But if you believe you deserve more, oh, you're going to go through hell and high water. God forbid, sometimes it get in your way to that thing that you deserve. Like you'll go fight for it. But you don't get that unless you do that work, unless you
Yeah.
create that version of you.
So let me ask you this because exactly what you're saying is so true. It's all the work we do behind the scenes, but talk a little bit about your ability to still pursue something that has extreme delayed gratification, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's
something
all.
such as becoming good at football. I mean, changing your body, picking up skills. I mean, it's not like that was a 1 week process, a 1 month process. Talk about your ability and people's ability to, handle delayed gratification.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. It depends on what you deem gratification, right? I think that there's the delayed gratification, and it's also a scale of what is something that you should be grateful for. So for what most people look at is I try something, I don't get the return I want right now, and how can I delay to get what I want later? And I look at it as how can I want whatever I get regardless of what it is.
Mm,
Right. And so here's how I look at it. Most people in the journey of what I did will stop because of this. They start the process and they get met with the fact that it's a 10 of pain and it hurts. 10 out of 10 of pain. I don't want this. They walk away. If they try it, ooh, it hurts. I go away. Well, guess they walk away with in their pocket, Phil. They walk away with an amazing lesson and they go and do something else. And that lesson, little by little, shrivels up and dies, right? It's like the orange in your pocket that all of a sudden dries up. And then maybe 6 months later, you're like, you know what? I want to try it again because we have a good way of forgetting the hard things and thinking about the memorable, amazing things. Think about your last relationship. Same thing. You remember the good things, but you forget about when she used to kick you when you slept and she didn't let you eat food. Like, but
yeah.
just making things up. But the
Yeah.
idea is like we do, and then we go back and try it again. And what do we have? A 10 out of 10 of pain, and we go to get that lesson out of our pocket. We don't remember it. What happened? I don't
Mm,
really recall. It was too long ago, right? Here's what you got to do. And this is where crazy people have success because they'll do something like when I go on a stage the first time, I bombed it. 10 out of 10 of pain. It hurt. And yeah, I had two options: walk away or say, oh, this hurt, but I learned this thing. Let me go do it again. What are you, a
yeah.
masochist? You crazy person? You just bombed. What are you thinking doing it again? That's logic. That's human logic, right?
Yep.
But unfortunately, the human logic and norm, most people are unhappy. So the norm is not healthy for our goals of big things. So what you do is you take that lesson, you go do it again. And now what happens is it's a 9 of pain, 9.78 of pain. Like but it's a little bit less and it hurts a little
Yeah.
bit less. And we're thinking delayed gratification, right? Keep that little anchor point there. So we keep going, doing it again. And all of a sudden it's like, I tried again. It's like, oh, that hurt again. And you get another lesson. You go back and do it again. People are like, what are you, an idiot? You still suck at this. I'm gonna do it again. But now it's a 9. I do it
Yeah.
again. And they're like, you idiot. Why are you going to stop now? But now it's an 8 and a 7 and a 6 and a 5 and a 4, right? And eventually it gets to be 0. And most people would assume it's painless, but it's not painless. It's joy. That thing that I hated to do. I hated to get on stage at first. We're going to make me talk in front of people. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Put me on the stage now, Phil. I'm going to kill it. Like there's a different, it's a joy. But I went through the 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, all the way to 0. And I was like, oh, dude, I love this. Right.
Yeah.
And so now in my life, when I pursue something, delayed gratification says I'm delaying being grateful for what this thing is, my return is. Well, for most people, they're loving the destination. I'm only going to love it when I get to the 0 and it's joy. I'm like, no. You got to love the day, not the destination.
Yep.
So I am grateful for this crappy thing. So my gratification is always immediate if I'm trying to be grateful for the lesson. So for all of us, yeah, there are some things you got to delay gratification for. Like if I buy a cake and I want to eat the cake, but it's for the party tomorrow, I got to wait to eat that cake. I'm not going to lie. But the most part, like if I can find joy in my day and the hardships, dude, I don't have to have delayed gratification. I'm happy now. And then when I get that thing done and I get to my end result, it's the 70 cherries on top. You know what I mean? But it's
Yes.
still joy. You're still appreciating it.
Rewind the last 2 to 3 minutes, listen to that about 9 times in a row. That is golden, my man. I appreciate that feedback. That's great.
Yeah. Welcome.
So as the high school career is progressing, to your point, you don't become pretty good. You become great. And you get recruited by a lot of top Division I programs, and you end up selecting to go to Oregon.
University. Go Ducks.
Let's go. So talk a little bit about, one, that opportunity and, the first time you knew I'm going to go play at Oregon.
Yeah, well, it was, my senior year, I had a whole bunch of opportunities, like you said. And I mean, it's funny because whenever like you start to like know you're going to leave, you're still in your present environment. And most people, it's hard to like take yourself out of it. Physically where you're at is where you're at. It wasn't real until I like drove up there with all my stuff. And I'm like, well, I don't get to go home today. Like, I'm not going home now. And then like you're with these new people and they want to they want you to run and they're yelling at you and you have to take showers butt naked around other men. What is going on? Like it's a whole different,
Yeah.
That's what I knew. But, you get entered into new parts of life and every new stage, new chapter, new season, it's going to be wrought with that feeling of like, this is abnormal and I don't like it. And when you fight that feeling, you'll fight success because everything in life has always come from moments like those. So like when I got to go to Oregon, man, it was weird at first, but after a while, it's like, man, this is the coolest thing ever. Like I'm playing at this world-class level, literally world-class level, one of the top colleges in the world for the sport. And I get to be around guys that want to work hard, coaches that want you to train. They want to make you great. And although it's very difficult and hard, like it's a whole new amazing experience. I'm one of such a small amount of human beings that get the opportunity. So like my days in Oregon, man, were great. I went from a boy to a man, to be quite honest, because I went there as just me, and I left there with another dad that I didn't know existed. I went there. I left with a 3-year-old son. I think a 2 or 3-year-old son, a wife. Like I literally went into college as a boy at 18 and left a damn near like I had a grown man life going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And so your time at Oregon, to your point, you have a lot of big life events happen, but your athletic ability increases too, right? I'd love to say, hey, you came in first year and you're, linebacker of the year, but I mean, you were doing well and you kept going.
Yeah, I did well. I played in the NFL, man. I got to play at the highest level in the world. It was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. There are a lot of things that end up coming to fruition without you actually doing anything but working each day. Like that was the kind of cool thing for me is I really didn't know what my life was going to look like because I didn't have aspirations in the NFL, to be quite honest. It wasn't until I got into like my junior year that I was like, oh, maybe I could play in the NFL. Like seriously, it didn't even come to pass in my head. And then all of a sudden it's real. And so, yeah, like it was a cool experience and a cool thing. But then you get to that tier where you're like, even if what I was at was cool, but the NFL, that's big boy. You know what I mean? That's a whole different. And I don't say that in a sense of like, oh, I'm great. I'm like, that's scary. Like, it's scary, dude. Whenever you're playing at a level that if you think about all the humans that God put on this planet, that they're a select group and you're one of them. That's a
Yes.
different level of weight, different level of responsibility. And for me, like it weighed heavy. Like, it was just this thing. Like my first year, I was out with the Buccaneers across the country, and I was newly married, had a kid, and like, it's hard. It's
Yes.
cutthroat, Phil. I would go in meetings and have my teammates, like I'm learning stuff. I go to the field and the guy that's like in front of me, I'd be like, hey, we're doing this drill. What do I do in this drill? Oh, you do this, this, and this. Okay, cool. I go out there, I do this, this, and this. I get reamed. What are you doing? And then I go to the sideline and I realize he purposely told me the wrong thing. And I realized, like, oh wait, I'm playing with grown men. This ain't college. If I
Right.
if I get a job, that means their family don't eat. They got to
Right.
go to real life. And you start to understand what it's really about. And it's a dog fight. Every day is a dog fight, man. And it's like every play, every rep, every snap, everything matters. And it starts to get you to really feel like it's one thing to hear this. It's a whole different thing to be every one of your senses immersed in this world,
Yeah.
because you start understanding like how hard things are really in the world. You start understanding how hard you got to work, what it's going to pull from you, and it makes you go like, I don't know if I want this. At one point I wanted to come home. I was like, I'm done with that. I don't play football no more. This is football.
Yeah.
Hey, give me that. Take me home. I want it easy.
Yeah.
And thankfully I stuck around. But dude, there's so much that happened in those 3 years that taught me so much about the world, about humans, about myself, about hardship, things that I could probably never truly put into words, because it would take me an hour to get you into the mental situation of that moment to then teach you that one thing I got to teach you. So it's like why a lot of people like athletes. It's because of a thing you can't put your finger on. I'm telling you, most of us can't put our finger on it either. It's hard to put into words.
Yeah.
All I believe it is we just understand how to do the hard things and enjoy it.
Right.
That's really all it is. Because the hard things are what makes life easier. So yeah, it looks like it's easy for us in a weight room or in the boardroom or in the sales. It does look easy, but we lifted those weights. At one point, it
Mm.
was hard. But
Yeah.
because we did, it was a vessel, a vehicle for us to learn to do hard things. And if you can put yourself, even now, non-athlete, if you can put yourself into hard situations, no matter what it is for your life, you will find the same thing that we have found. You may not have played a sport, but life's a game, dude. We're all waking up every day playing it. If you can find a way to do the hard things, you'll get all the same intangible. That's why there's people who didn't play sports who are phenomenally successful. They just found their own way to get the hard work done.
I love that. That's phenomenal. So now we take off in the NFL, and right, we end up being Super Bowl champion 4 or 5 times, win Pro Bowls, or maybe not.
Wait, one more time? I didn't hear what that last piece was.
I said, or maybe not.
Yeah, or maybe not. We don't like get Super Pro Bowls. What are you asking me a question? I feel like I missed part of the question. I feel like I did an idiot move right here.
No, you're good. So just from your standpoint, get to the NFL and you'd like it to just take off, right? Super Bowls, Pro
Oh,
Bowls. And then all of a sudden, that's not
that
quite the
yeah,
way the
you
NFL
set it up
trajectory
right. I
goes.
dropped the ball. I fumbled that. I fumbled that question, didn't I? No,
You're
man.
good.
And if yeah, you because you got like, oh, life's gonna be great forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden life happens, and life happens between your plans. And so I tear my shoulder playing against the Philadelphia Eagles. And God's took me home, man, but not like home, like he sent me home. And he was like, yeah, you gotta do something else. So my career ended. I didn't know it was at the time my career ended. I just knew
Okay.
I tore my shoulder, and I tore my right shoulder in college. This is now my left shoulder. I've broken my left wrist twice. I have low back issues. As a linebacker, the big things that you don't have messed up are low back, shoulders, and wrists. Sure enough, I got all of them. So I come home, man, and a lot of things happen, but essentially this takes place. I hang the jersey up, and I get to this point of like really losing a sense of self.
Yeah.
Because to be quite honest, when you have given your all to something and then it's removed from you for whatever reason, it leaves you feeling like torn apart inside, completely just raw and in disarray. Whether it's I sent a kid to college and I'm not being taxi mom or dad anymore, or I've lost this job that I've had for 10 years because they closed down. I lost the business. I left the relationship, it fell apart. I left the military, I left sports. No matter what it is, when you've lost it, it's tough, because the problem is typically when you've given your all to something, it holds all of who you are.
Yep.
Let me say this again. When you give your all to something, it holds all of who you are. And in a sense, when you lose that, you feel like you've lost yourself. So when I lost football, I felt like I lost everything that mattered to me. Who am
Right.
I without football? All of who I am was there. And I tell people metaphorically, it's kind of like having an apple, and this apple's on a tree, and the apple falls off the tree. The fruit of my labor fell off the tree. And so I'm the fruit, and I just fall on the ground, and I feel all like, oh, it sucks. Now I can last a little bit, right? You could pick me up, take me to the store. I could buy it from the store, take it home. It may take a couple of weeks. It'll last, but then eventually, at some point, Philip, it dies. It
Yep.
rots and it gets all decrepit, and that's how we feel inside. I'm like, oh, then you start going through the ups and downs and emotion of it all, and it just kind of sucks. And
Yeah.
so what I've come to feel and realize over my life, when I've done that, I cause problems. And here's why I cause problems. I didn't know for a lot of years that I and you and everybody in the world, we have never been the fruit. We have always been the tree. And when you start to understand what that means, it's like, well, if you were just focused on the fruit, well, you didn't put the tree in the right soil. You went around the bad environments. You definitely didn't give it any nutrients. You didn't water it. You didn't give it sun. You didn't prune the branches. So every other fruit died. My
Mm.
relationship died. My gym business was falling apart. I wasn't a good father. I was out of shape. Like it was just all of it. All the tree was, and it took me years, dude. I took my mom passing away. It took a divorce. It took just not loving myself, like not wanting to be here at one point. It took all of that for me to get to the back end and finally snap out of it and go, oh, wait, if I take care of this tree, I can produce better fruit. So I
Yeah.
went back to the tree. I said, what's the tree need? Well, first off, the tree needs to be in better soil. I need to stop hanging out with these people. Some of them, I need to be in better environments, better groups. I need to do that, right? Then I need to feed this tree a little bit better nutrients, give it some sun. I got to put water in it, take care of the physical body. I got to get close to my faith. I got to feed my soul. I got to feed my mind with information. Then I got to prune some of these branches, man. Some of
Yeah.
this fruit don't need to be the fruit. I don't need to have rims on my car and a stereo, bro. What's the point of that? So somebody else can see me drive around. I don't even get benefit for having rims on my car. What do I need that for? You know what I'm saying? Just let's go
Yeah.
everybody. I don't see it. Like it's stupid.
I
So and
love it.
then I'm not saying if you have rims in your car, like it's okay. I still love you, but I think you should go return them. But at the end of the day, it turns into this thing where it's like I took care of the tree, and the tree started producing more and sweeter fruit than football ever could have been.
Yes.
And that's one of the lessons that I've really come to ingrain in my life right now is like, well, am I taking care of the tree, right? And if I'm not, like, how do I get you around that? And the work I do with my clients, a lot of it is it's all let's go back to the tree because some of the fruits in your life are that business you want to build. It's that relationship you want to have. It's the body you want to have. These are fruits of labor. But if you
Yeah.
ain't taking care of the tree, you're never gonna have it. No matter how I don't care what book you read, if you don't do things that actionably do the thing, like then you just got a cool fruit that you want to have, and you have cool stories about what you might have in the future. But you gotta like it's seriously, you gotta take care of it. It's labor. It's like a farmer, man. Law of the
Yeah.
harvest, right? Law of the harvest. I plant a seed, I water it, I go through the seasons, and then eventually, after months of work, I get to harvest that thing. A lot of people are planting seeds, and if it doesn't plant out and grow up right now, they go to the next thing and plant a new seed and plant a new seed. No, man. Take care of the tree right now. Put the time in, you'll harvest later.
That is a great analogy. That is awesome. And I love that. Yeah, you are the tree, not the fruit that falls off of it. That's phenomenal. So as you end the NFL and you start, venturing into other things, a pretty natural segue for you is into personal fitness. And so you decide, I'll start a gym.
Yeah, that's it.
And
I'm sorry. Yeah,
yeah, I'm going to start a gym. And there's a lot that goes into starting a gym too.
yeah, I know what I was doing. It's dumb. Dumb idea. I mean, in hindsight, it was a very, very stupid, uneducated. Because I was 25, I'd never had a job, I'd never had a gym membership, I'd never had a business plan. I just had some money and a degree in kinesiology I'd never used. So I'm like, I'm gonna open a gym. Everybody's gonna want to come train with me because I play in the NFL, right? Nope, not at all, man. And it was a journey. It was a long. You know what it was? It was a microcosm of the world.
Mm,
I was behind the ball because all my peers had already been in the real world for a long time and I hadn't. So I'm thrust into this world and I pretty much created this small world of understanding how do I interact with other human beings? How do I deal with sales and systems and training and people and hard conversations, difficult clients? How do I deal with success? All these things I had to
yeah.
figure out. And it was like I got to jam pack so many years into just, like 6 years of owning that gym. And what's interesting also is I think even when people experience these things, they don't always learn from them. right? We can, like, I think life's an amazing classroom. It's a great teacher, but some people they don't pay attention in class, or they leave class, right?
Right.
They try to, like, I don't want to deal with this lesson. I'm gonna walk away from it and go do something else, right? So
Yeah.
one thing I did is I never had the ability to stop. At one point, I was looking at bankruptcy if I didn't have it solve a problem in 2 weeks. I was served with eviction papers, I had to figure it out, and it was like, choice: figure it out or go bankrupt. I was like, well, I'm gonna go down swinging. I'm gonna
Yeah.
figure something out. And
Yeah.
I went down and I knocked the opposition out. I got the business to keep running. I figured some things out, but it was like those moments in time built me. I mean, I
Mm.
spent thousands of hours in conversation and different issues like that I would never have gotten if I wasn't in that environment. And that's what allowed me to be the guy I am now, in a small way, for sure. But yeah, dude, that thing was not it was not a good idea. I would not recommend it to anybody else. Not the gym, but the way I did it. Like, I wouldn't
Yeah.
recommend you do it the way I did it, because when you do something that you have no idea around the way I did, you better have a legitimate, like, unbreakable will.
Yes.
Because if it wasn't for my ability to just have this weird, unbreakable will of optimism, I wouldn't have stuck through it. I would have went bankrupt. Life would have probably been even worse.
Absolutely. Now, yeah, to your point, starting a business, running a business, not an easy thing, and certainly a time intensive thing. And when
Yeah.
you're married, have kids, that's a tough thing, right? Because you got to give a lot of time and effort to that. And so, you've mentioned, hey, that did it distracted and detracted from the amount of time and energy I could give to my family. And so, talk a little bit about that, and also kind of the redemption part of all of that and the familial status today.
Yeah, man. So when it all falls down, uh, we all have those moments, right?
Yep.
There's always those moments where they go tumbling down, like, Humpty Dumpty falls off the wall and you can't put them back together. So my marriage falls apart, dude. Like, everything falls apart. Everything that made Anthony was, like, no longer there. No football, no family, no wife. I wasn't a good dad. The business was sucking, and it leaves us in a fog. All of us, no matter who
Yeah.
you are, there's that fog moment at
Yep.
some point in time. And essentially, it's like that. I'm getting up every day, going through the motions. But if you look back on that, you can't even recall any one day out of the other one. It's just a fog.
Yes.
A friend of mine calls them event horizons. There's moments in
Mm.
our life where, if you don't have enough event horizons, it just gets all smashed together as one time frame, and you don't get cool experiences out of it. I call it my
Yeah.
dark times. I had
Yeah.
no event horizons. It was all the same day, a blur, and I was just in a fog of, like, life sucked. And what ended
Yeah.
up happening is I did what I thought was, like, you're supposed to do. And to be honest, the farthest I fell away from my faith, man. I had multiple partners. I would, travel around. At one point, I got, like, an interesting, good contract to then, like, travel, and, like, I made some good money. So, like, I was like, oh, I'm traveling to Bahamas, invite people there, and you think it's gonna be good, but it's not.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a thing where, was it Viktor Frankl calls it an existential vacuum.
Okay.
It's man's search for meaning. It's this hole, this gaping, and you start sucking things in, hoping that thing's gonna fill you up. And there's nothing's really gonna fill you up. There's a couple things. One's God, is the first piece of. Other part is, like, doing the right things. And it
Yeah.
took me years to fill it up. Like, I'm just traveling around. It took me my mom passing away. I was there when my mom took her last breaths, and I remember having two promises I made to her before she passed. And one was, I'm gonna figure my life out. And when I do, I'm gonna figure out how to help other people do the same. Like, just
I
the way you
love
did it
it.
for me, I'm gonna do it. Now, at the time, I didn't know about this world. I
Mm.
think people think I tell that story like it was a good entrance into how I speak and share. But to be quite honest, I was still a gym owner.
Yeah.
I didn't, it was 2014. I didn't close my gym until June. She passed away in April. It's funny, man. God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
So I make this promise. And then about a month later, a month, I want to say, I'm doing this consulting thing for a fire department, a fire company. They say, hey, there is this, this contract where we're going to get you to do some videos, and we're going to take these videos, we're going to put them online, and people are going to buy them on the internet. And that's blasphemy. What do you mean, buy my videos online? What are you talking about? No one's going to get my stuff. They could share those videos. And then he's like, no, this guy, Brennan Burchard, he talks about how to do this. I'm like, Brennan, who's Brennan Burchard? Like, so I go into Starbucks, and on my little laptop, I open it up and I click it, and some funny little, like, bright white guys jump around the screen. I'm like, what's going on, man?
Yeah.
And he's like, and then he gets you, dude. He gets you. And it's like, there's ways to tell your story in a way that brings monetary value to your life and impact to people's lives. And I remember I bought in, I bought the ticket. It happened to be, he did his events about an hour south of me in Santa Clara. I was
Okay.
like, cool, I'll head down, check out one of these events. And I get in there and he's not on the screen now. He's in the same thing up on the stage and his room full like 2,000 people. I'm like, what is going on? Like, didn't know it existed. And at one point, in some weird roundabout ways, someone in the audience that I'm doing a little share with in this little group share, we'll call it like a pause time, a break. They relay to his staff hears my story. I kept going to events. Eventually they go, hey, you want to volunteer? I'm like, yeah, I'll volunteer. And granted, this time I'm going through a divorce. I'm trying to figure this whole thing out.
Yeah.
And it happened to be like, I want to say June hits, the lease for the gym is up because I was going this back and forth from the gym. The lease for the gym is up, and I get this amazing contract for $250,000 from this power company I'm consulting for. So I'm like, I got money. I have this passion to go help people. I wanted to.
Yeah.
And then I have this vehicle that's this product that this guy told me about. And I'm like, God opened this weird door in June 2014 of like, son, go do what you could do. And dude, I jumped, man, right full speed, both feet, jumped off the cliff. Been building ever since. And the journey it took me on was one of personal growth because at this time, like I had to figure out me, and I'm still in the middle of this crazy hiatus of divorce and nutso stuff. And then it took another 2 years of fall, to be quite honest, 2 more years of running around like a crazy person. And I landed on January 1st, 2016, in a moment where I just had this weird wave of shame. I woke up next to a woman who didn't even speak my language. And I had this wave of like, this is not the man I'm supposed to be. I
Yeah.
would not want my daughter to be with a guy like this. I would never want my sons to be like this guy. My mom would not be proud of me. My God wouldn't let me into heaven. And it was just that moment, man. It wasn't some like, I was walking outside and got hit by a car. It wasn't that. It was just a moment of, I don't like me. But I
Yeah.
think we need to stop looking for catalyst moments. The moment when it all took place, I just woke up one day and I looked in the mirror. I was like, I don't like this guy. That's it,
Yeah.
people. Like that was and I was like, I'm gonna figure it out. Really figure it out this time. And I went through this whole journey of figuring out like, what do I got to do? And a lot of what I did is what I coach. And it's not always your life has to be broken to get here. It's if you want to accomplish anything, it's what we do. And fast forward 10 months, man, I got my marriage back together. I got a present family. I'm a present father. I got in shape. I'm back in a level of faith where I have a relationship with my God and who I am. Like I live a good life. And so I made good on promise one. And now is like the time, and I've been doing it ever since, like making good on promise too. So I get to travel around and share stories like these that are honestly not supposed to be like, oh, I can relate 100% to them.
Yeah.
Maybe the specific you can't relate, but the emotion we can. And that's what I want you
Yes.
to realize. Like I'm a regular dude, but I got a really, really irregular desire to help people. It's a promise I'm fulfilling on, and I have a method that I use to do it. So you said redemption, like, yeah, 100% redemption, but it wasn't happening unless God came back into the picture, and which allowed my wife to come back into the picture.
Yep.
And I got to make a better, I guess, a better perspective and meaning for my life. Because I think as humans, we are meaning making machines. And I gave my life a different meaning, right? Because at the end of the day, no moment has any meaning except the meaning that we place upon it. So I placed a different meaning on it, what it meant, what it was, how I was going to work through it, and having, I as a volunteer for Bouchard, eventually got to meet him, build like some things up with him. I did a product with him. Now he's a buddy of mine. Of all the
Yeah.
people ever gone to his events, I think I'm the only one that went from not knowing the world existed to making it to where like I go hang out at his house and like I'm part, like I text him like he's not that he's this man on high, but he's a phenomenal human who does
Yeah.
amazing things. And it's all, man, a matter of all I did was did the work. I did the
Yeah.
same thing I did when I was 15 years old.
Yep.
I did the exact same thing, but I just did it as an adult with understanding. And now when I teach other people, it makes it work for their life. And now that were dreams become realities.
I love it. I love it. That's phenomenal. And one thing I want to point out, I appreciate your authenticity. And that would be not only in this conversation, but literally in every conversation Anthony has. He's authentic, he's genuine, and he doesn't sugarcoat things, which I greatly appreciate.
Yeah, man. I don't know how to do that yet. I find that I don't like to lie at all. It makes me feel dark. I have situations in life where like I feel super gross. If I have hard conversations, I'll have them, but like I don't like being in gray area. I got to go to sleep well at night. And
Yeah.
if I lose sleep, I know it's because something's awkward's going on. But I need to be like, I can seriously lay my head down and within like 60 seconds, I'm out. And it's because my heart's light. And it
I'm
only
the
happens
same way.
Yeah, Kevin's got I got an empty bucket of lies. There's no lies weighing me down, dude. I'm just living my life, doing my things.
I love that. Now, you referenced it and you said, all right, God kind of enters into our lives, and your ex-wife at the time, now current wife, you mentioned that she happens to find this Joyce Meyer's book that was
Yeah.
given to her, not like the day before, and she's like, oh, I better read this gift that was
No,
given to
no,
me,
no.
but
She had
previously in life.
yeah, that's for sure. Like I'm telling you, man, he works in mysterious ways, dude. So I'm doing my thing. I'm not even paying attention to her life. At this time,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm done with this woman. She's crazy. Literally, it took me 3 years to finally be done with her.
Yeah.
And she tells it as, she woke up one day. Her brother, granted, he's been in jail. I love him. He's a good guy at his heart, at his core, but he's troubled. He's got some things going on, right? So he's been in jail. He's doing well in life, but he's been addicted to some things. So it's like not the guy you think's gonna give you a book about faith at all.
Right. Right.
So and she tells you today, she's like, he must have got it out of a car he broke into or something. I don't know, but like he had this Joyce Meyer's book and he gave it to her and she took it and put it on the side of her dresser. Now just left it there, didn't even look at it.
Yeah.
And then she tells it as, one day she woke up and she was kind of borderline hungover. She's by herself, 30 years old. Her 3 kids aren't there. There's nobody to call. Her friends aren't around. There's no guys that she feels she wants to call. And she's like, I realized like this can't be my life. I can't do this
Yeah.
for the rest. She's like, this is my life. I don't want it. And she picked the book up. And that book was, again, one of those God moments, man. It was another vessel and vehicle. And for years, I mean, it's funny, before we got divorced, I was that man of faith. Like, I didn't even cuss when I played in the NFL. And she never wanted to come. She grew up Catholic. She would go, I'd take the kids to church by myself and she'd go and hang out with her friends on Sundays. It was kind of the thing. And as much as I wanted to be around it, you can't give that to somebody. They got to find it themselves.
Yep.
And she found it. And God put her in a unique, different space. And at the right time, when I say the marriage got back together, like at the right weird timing, I had my thing happen where I'm like, I got to figure this thing out. So did she. And it built to this moment in, I want to say it might have been August. It might have been like August. Yeah. July. August of 2016. She's like, hey, I want to take a trip to Costa Rica. I want to get out of this town. It's a small town. It's not good for our, my mental health, what I want to call it. But I know you can't be away from the kids that long. So do you want to go? We'll get separate rooms. We're not together. We're just going to be out there together. I'm like, yeah, I can work from a computer because of what I was doing. I was like, I'll come. So I go out there. And it wasn't like, I don't explain it. I got to meet somebody for the first time that I'd known for 16 years.
Yes.
New person, new view, new heart. There's a different level of how she was a woman. Like, this is a woman. And I
Yeah.
wasn't even at the time, I was still like not trying to get back with her. It was just like, cool. Like, I'm gonna have a cool baby mama for the rest of my life. Like, this
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
good. That was it. I was like, this would be cool. And then we went home. And when I got back home, like I started talking to women again. And I had this one I was, gonna go on a date with, and we had been communicating. And the day before the date, she comes and says, hey, I want to try this again. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? What? What? That's not how this works. She's like, I feel like, I prayed on it and I feel like I would kick myself the rest of my life if I didn't tell you. She's like, I feel like he wanted me to tell you this and put it out there. And I was like, okay, I don't know. At first, like, no. And because I mean, it's hurt, it's pain, and there's a lot of stuff that went through it. But then I told her, I said, if it's going to work, you'd have to go talk to my friends, the people who were there when you did your craziness. You have to get them to get on board.
Yeah.
And she'd always been adamantly against that. I'd said it before. And I went and took a trip to actually Portland to visit Brendan and create something. I come back and my friends are like, hey, man, had a good conversation with Christina. I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, yeah, she
Wow.
came, drove out to me. And one of them was like, I gave it to her like a woman, dude. And she
Yeah.
took it like a woman. I was like, oh, he's like, you got my blessing. And so that was the start of like, all right, let's see what this looks like.
Mm.
And the thing for me is like, I'm glad that I didn't pass up on the woman I married.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I'm telling you, the day I married her, it wasn't the woman. Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't the day I married her. She was not the person that I was supposed to be with forever.
Yeah.
But this day, this was the woman I was supposed to be with forever. And so God mended the hearts, mended the marriage. And now we got something pretty stinking cool.
That's so amazing. Yeah. And I mean, I think something you highlight there, I mean, meager human, we would have had ego get in the way, right? We would have not had trust. We would have lacked forgiveness. But yeah, with something more powerful than us, we can get that mission accomplished.
Yeah, man. Always can.
That's
Weird
so
ways,
cool.
right?
That's so
Weird ways.
cool. So inside your business now, you're all about mindset and identity shifting, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
How do we do that? And I think one thing that you talk about as a principle is the architecture and then the action. So would you spend a minute maybe highlighting that? Because I think that's both of those parts are super, or those are super important things, but sometimes
Yeah.
there's one without the other.
Yeah. There's usually how it works. Well, think about it. If we all want something, no matter what you want in life, there's a person that has that thing. It's reality.
Yep.
If you were that person, you'd have that thing.
Hmm.
It's just simple logic, right? So what I run into and find with a lot of people is they want to have something without becoming the person who hasn't. So what I do is work it through and say, let's go ahead and see what you want. Let's get a vision, a dream. And let's what kind of person has to have that? Okay, where do you have an identity gap? Where are you
Yeah.
not that person? And then we can actually start charting a path to becoming the person that you need to be. And so the architecture is the architecting of the ideal identity. We put it together. How do you handle things? What are your reactions? What are the habits, big actions? What's the mindset behind it? What's the personal pride and ego you got to have? What do you believe about yourself? What does that person believe about the world themselves? Who is that human being, right? And then what happens once you've got that, now we can actually start crafting a true architecture of the identity. And identity isn't just like, who do I want to be? It's what are you doing every day? Because
Yeah.
what you do, like consistently, like who you're being, helps you become somebody. Me and you right now, anybody listening has become somebody today because of who we were being every day.
Yeah.
So if you want to become somebody different, you must start being someone different now. Shifts. So we,
Yeah.
we think about, we plan what that actually is. The action of that's the big piece. Because here's the truth, man. A lot of people know what to do, but don't do it.
Yep.
A lot. I know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. So I'm not healthy. I'm still fat because I don't want to work out.
Yeah.
So what I do is I look at it and go, all right, what do I got to get done? And how do I get myself to do these things that are hard easily? And this is where I start putting in a ridiculously new cadence and rhythm to your life. And I do it through a method. We have some cool tools that actually take all this big picture thinking and dial it into 5 simple things you do every day
Mm.
that you actually start to fall in love with. And
Yeah.
they are hard, but you love doing them. And it's kind of like when you work out. When you worked out for a while, you understand like working out hurts,
Yeah.
but I love it.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh man, yeah, I love being in the middle of a sweat and a burn and like getting done and looking in the mirror and look at me, man, pop my chest, my nipples bouncing, feel good. I'm not even joking. I've done that many times.
I
So the
believe
idea
it.
is like you do these things, but you feel good. Same thing with life, man. How can I get
Yeah.
to a flow of really enjoying this work? And if I show you how to do it, not only do you actually get to a good rhythm and enjoy the day,
Yeah.
you start to actually end up at more of your desired destinations.
That's great. And something that you said, about we've gotten to where we are by doing things that we've done, right? I think a quote that I've always enjoyed is, how would the person I want to become do what I'm about to do?
Oh yeah. It's the other way. Yeah. I ask the same question. I tell people all the time. Actually, I'm not just saying this. I say this probably at least 3 times a day. I'm like, whatever you're dealing with, you want to stop, want to quit. What would the person who has everything you want say right now? Or
Yes.
what if your hero followed you around for a day? What would they say? Can you imagine if I was walking around with say, I don't know, let's say I wanted to build a big business and I'm with Richard Branson and he's looking at my day. If I show him my calendar, does he go, oh yeah, it's a pretty hard day? Or he laugh at me and go, what the hell? That's my morning.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you do the rest of the day?
Serious though. That's what people don't think about is if you put yourself in that position and you ask yourself, like, I got a client that's a $10 million business, $10 million a year business.
Mhm.
And he tells me it's like one time I got this going on, this going, I got a lot. And I didn't do it. I'm like, okay. I'd even put in a text message. I said, would the person who has the business that we've agreed you want to have, would they say that to me?
Oh,
And he said that statement fired him up. He's like, I've been getting this for like a good couple of weeks. He's like, I got more done in the last 2 weeks than I have the last 6 months.
love
It's
it.
just a framing, man. And if you can
Yeah.
perceive a higher level of identity and then go build into that, anything you want is yours.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, for sake of time, I know you got things to get done, but I want to ask a pointed question. So this is an
Yeah.
idea that was proposed to me, a few years back, and it's just been something that I've really stewed on and always appreciate hearing, successful people's opinions of things. And so it's this idea of blissful dissatisfaction. Okay. And so for a lot of people, when they hit that first goal, whatever it might be, oftentimes they plateau, they maintain because they've hit this, thing that they thought was the ultimate goal. And well, I've now hit it, so I'm going to stay there.
Hmm.
Then there's probably people like you and I, where it's like, all right, I hit my first goal, but I'm such a goal oriented person, or I want to get to the next thing so quickly that I kind of disregard the fact that even happened. I'm working to get to the next goal like
Mhm.
instantly. So
Yeah.
for you, how do you balance all the phenomenal and amazing things that you've done while
Yeah.
still in not losing the pursuit and the hunger to accomplish more?
Yeah. There's a book called Mastery. It talks about this.
Yeah.
I can't see it on my library. Book called Mastery. And it talks about the way of Aikido. And what's interesting is they talk about this, and I've mentioned it a couple times within this podcast. So one part of it is falling in love with the day,
Yep.
right? The day is the hard stuff, the destination. But what they talk about in Aikido is there's this level to where like it sucks to do the work to do every day. And what happens is when they start doing it, they eventually get it's so monotonous and engaging that we love it so much. Like they'll get used to like doing their thing, and then all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, I got a belt to test for. And they test for the belt, but they want to get back to the practice. They want to get back to the flow because there's a love for that more.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is if you are the kind of individual that has success, it's like not that you don't care about what you accomplish, but it's not about the accomplishment. We have happiness on the journey. I think we as humans, there's a different sense of what happiness. I think people have found they're like, I want to be happy, I want to find happiness. They're typically lazy people.
Yeah.
Just to be honest, it's like they're lazy or they're working in the wrong direction. And what
Mhm.
I've found is the people who are the most joyous and happiness or happiest are the ones who are in the process of building, creating, manipulating hands. Think about a painter is the most at bliss while painting,
Yeah.
right? A sculptor while sculpting, a speaker while speaking. I'm happy there. Not
Yeah.
when I got off the stage and go, oh, I did it and I get back. No, put me back on there. Let me go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's where you're saying that blissful, I guess, disconnect, whatever, I don't remember what the word was, but blissful, what is it?
Dissatisfaction.
Dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a dissatisfaction. I think
Ah.
it's bliss with hard work. It's finding joy within that. Seriously, being at a level where you're the weirdo who likes work. I can tell a person who doesn't like work because when I tell them how often I work, they're like, oh, that must suck. Oh, you just told me a lot about you in that statement because that's
Yeah.
that's telling me that what you associate with work you hate, and if you had
Yep.
to do it a lot, you'd hate it. I love what I do. I love doing it all the
Yes.
time. It's hard to get me to stop doing it. I do it till
Yeah.
8 o'clock at night, and I'm up at 5:30. It's just parts of it are fun. It's all over the place.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, that's my happy place. Not only when I get to the end result of money or some new toy. Like that's cool, but dude, put me back on the track. I want to keep running.
I love that. And I think something that's so important that people need to highlight is, to your point, fall in love with the process, right? Fall in love with all the things along the way, because the end moment or that pinnacle of, hey, I got drafted in the NFL, whatever. I mean, that was a really cool moment, but it was all the things leading up to it that were important, right? And you fell in love with the workouts, the film, the getting better, and that's what ended up giving you that ultimate moment. That's great.
Yeah, that's it, man.
That's good. Well, no, Anthony. Well, hey, I appreciate the heck out of the time. As promised, a fascinating story with great nuggets and wisdom. We'll include everything in the bio on how to find you, Instagram, your website, and we'll make sure to include that. But I want to appreciate or say thank you so much. I appreciate you being on today.
Hey, welcome, man. Thank you for having me.